Guys, we are back in the pod with the real Aarti Anhal. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
How are you today?
I'm very good. How are you?
Good. Thank you for coming. Now, though, guys, the reason why I said real because she was famous and she is in this magazine, so that's why we have the real one.
Oh, thank you. Very
So
real.
we're going to have to get her to sign this before she leaves because, you know, why not? Right, guys. So, Aarti, before we start the interview, how you're going to flick through the mood book and tell us how you're feeling.
Okay.
So let's see how she is doing.
I think contemplative. I'm feeling contemplative.
Okay.
Ready to contemplate and share.
Okay, that's great. Good. So she's feeling contemplative. So let's see how she feels. At the end, we'll ask you again how you're feeling and then we'll compare.
Okay.
And hopefully it's a positive outcome. Tell me about your very first job, Back to Basics.
Wow. So back to basics, my very first job. So the first job I ever actually received money for was at the age of 18. I had just started at university in London at King's and I decided I needed to make some money to fund myself. And so I took a job at Next, the fashion brand retailer, in the menswear department on Bond Street.
Wow.
So I basically spent every Thursday evening and full day Saturday, sometimes Sundays, selling men clothes that they either thought they needed or that they thought they wanted. Yeah.
There you go. Okay, so then what about your first kind of industry type of job?
Yeah, so it's interesting, isn't it? Because having contemplated previously on that job, I think it kind of started me off very early in my career in terms of working with men and understanding what they wanted and what they needed and being able to develop the relationship to kind of sell to them, which has kind of been a theme for my whole career, really. But my first, I guess, official job was working for a think tank that was focused on cyber. So it's called the Information Assurance Advisory Council, IAC, and that was in 2001. And that was the first real think tank to look at cyber from the perspective of government policy and businesses to try and bring about dialogue. So so I started by cutting my teeth on cyber in the early 2000s.
Wow, so she was kind of leading the way before we all cyber got popular, so there you go.
Some things still haven't changed about the dialogue around cyber. Some things have, fortunately.
Some things have, But, oh, wow, interesting. So retail and then straight into the resilience field as we know it today. Before 9.
Before 9.
Before 9, guys. It's not actually before 9 right now, but this is Aarti's business. Tell us more about what that is.
So I guess the concept of before 9, and I always have to explain to people that if they're not morning people, it's okay. They could be before 9 in the evening. It was really based on my perception of the world of work. And what I was seeing in particularly the latter part of kind of my operational resilience career, so kind of 2010 onwards, was that we were all very good at focusing on process and procedure when it came to risk taking, high pressure situations, incident management, crisis management. But the third P, the people part, was often kind of neglected. It was as much as, do those people know what the plan says? Great. And have we tested them? Great. And I thought, well, there's so much psychology that goes into our human performance. And then I took another step back and I looked at the world of work generally, so not just resilience, but just the way that organisations are operating. And I felt that actually there was a real gap in how people were being developed from a mental health, well-being, psychological resilience perspective, and kind of being invested in to give them the tools to support business as usual, to support the transformation that all the organisations are going through, and to support those kind of incident and crisis situations. So I set up Before 9 in 2017, really with this idea that I want to help people feel that they have the mindset, the emotional muscles, and the behaviours that support them in dealing with whatever happens once 9 o'clock comes along. So that can be in your personal life, your professional life, what your stakeholders bring to the table, what your competitors bring. And I guess that's really where it's come from. It's this idea of how do we bridge what people need and how do we bridge what organisations need from their people and find this kind of package that takes psychology and business performance and brings it together.
Because it's really important, isn't it? Because we're not, your whole essence is people side. So, and that brings me on to the next question about personal resilience, and in your article you had these characteristics listed, but we're not going to go through all of them, but just in terms of what that means to you from a personal side, what is that?
So it's been really interesting because I guess when I was a lay person, not working in the psychology field, you know, for me resilience was just, you know, can we withstand and can we get back up again? And actually now I've learned a lot more about, you know, actually what is that personal resilience, and I call it the 3 R's. So it's resistance, which essentially in terms of a metaphor is being rooted. So can you stay rooted? But resistance alone is not enough. So I think often we think of personal resilience as being single-minded and driven and persevering, but actually if you overuse that, it's stubbornness. So the second part is recovery, which is the adaptation. So whilst you're the tree that's rooted, you're also a palm tree that's kind of able to blow with the wind and recognise when the situation's changing. So I think as human beings we need to be better at not just sticking in the ground, actually going, right, this situation requires me to think differently, respond differently. And then the third part that I think we really ignore personally is how are we going to reconfigure, transform as a result of what we've experienced? You know, we always talk in the industry around like organisational resilience and say, yes, it's about the response and it's the recovery, but it's also about the transformation afterwards. What do we learn as a result of what we've gone through? And I think that really applies at the human level. And I think it also applies in organisations where I've kind of seen people go, right, we've experienced something, but really we're not going to action any of the learning. We're not going to institutionalise any of that. And I think that's the real gap and it's also the gap for us as humans if we don't learn and transform as a result.
Powerful stuff, guys. Moving on from the personal resilience, what about our resilience in the workplace?
So I think this is a really interesting point, and I guess my approach here is really human first, which is building the resilience of the human being so that whatever they experience personally and professionally, they're able to resist, recover, reconfigure. And I think what's particularly important in the workplace is recognising that we may not control all of the aspects around us that we would like to.
Yeah, so true.
But that actually we have a lot of power in terms of how we interpret situations. And so I do a lot of work with organisations around the thinking traps that we all carry as individuals that mean that when we are faced with difficult or challenging situations, those thinking traps are actually what's creating our emotional response. So I'll give you a really interesting example, which you wouldn't think is a high pressure situation, but which is almost institutionalised. So when I'm working and doing resilience training for teams, a lot of the thinking traps they experience are about other people. Those people never give us budget. These people never respond to us. Those people don't take us seriously. We make big sweeping generalisations. And then as a team, we carry those thinking traps with us. And whenever we experience them, they kind of become ingrained and we start to feel emotionally kind of anxious, angry, bitter. Now, those are thinking traps that we can overcome by just changing the way we're looking at someone else's behaviour. And I think that there's a lot of that we could do in the workplace that would actually improve our relationships with those people when we really understand that the reason they don't listen, or our perception is they don't listen, is that they're under pressure to do something else. The more we can build that understanding, the more we can fight our own thinking traps, improve our own performance. So I see that as a lot of the value of resilience in the workplace. It's less about are you getting your sleep and are you eating your meals, because I think we as human beings now we have a lot of great information about that.
Of course,
It's how do we change the way we think, how do we reframe situations, and how do we look at situations from multiple perspectives. I think that's the real value.
So we are women in resilience, obviously, and with that comes a lot of challenges. And I love to ask this question because people go from they've had no challenges being a woman to, oh my God, I had so many. So where are you on that scale? And if you've got any short stories to share with us.
So it's interesting because I see it as a spectrum. Here you've got the opportunities and here you've got the challenges, right? Yeah. And yes, by and large, I have perceived, and again, it's a mental thing, isn't it?
Yes.
That the situations I have found myself in have been opportunities for learning, for growth, to build my own confidence. I can't think of the conventional challenges that a lot of women talk about in the industry, that I haven't been noticed, I haven't been promoted, I haven't had equal pay, I haven't, been able to sell myself or been, heard at senior level. I haven't experienced those issues myself. I would say that my challenges in my career as a woman in resilience has been about managing my boundaries and managing my resilience. So in my previous role, I was COO of a startup. The first 3 years of that operation were very demanding, mentally, physically, emotionally. And I think there were definitely times when I could have managed my own well-being and stepped back more and not been so consumed in that identity that I had. Because I think the issue is less about gender and it's more about boundaries. So for example, I'm a very all or nothing person. And when I'm really all in. And actually that in itself creates issues for my boundary setting and my well-being. So I think one of my challenges has just been around becoming better at managing my boundaries so that I do things that I'm passionate about, that are valuable, that are recognised, but that also keep me balanced, happy, healthy.
So we were just talking about boundaries, and Aarti has some tips that we can take away to actually put that into practice, because that's quite important. It's all well knowing the theory, but how do we actually make that work? So over to our expert.
So I can't claim this tip as my own, but my coaching supervisor shared it with me when actually I was struggling with some boundaries. And we hear this phrase win-win all the time, which is, yes, I'll take on that piece of work, or I'll work with this client, or I'll go the extra mile because it's a win for me and it's a win for them. And we can make those judgments quite quickly because we'll go, it's a win for me personally, professionally, it's a win for them, they get what they want. And she introduced me to a Japanese concept actually, which is really win-win-win, which is actually, it should be a win for you, it should be a win for whoever it is you're doing that for, but it should be a win for the system. And the system can be your health, your well-being, enabling you to be in the best possible place to deliver what you need to deliver to that person. And I think sometimes we forget to take that system view. So I think that's definitely one tip. And the other very quick one I would give is really, I think when we struggle with boundaries, it's because we're so caught up on what someone else is going to think. So when we say no, what are they going to think about us? And I think this is where we are carrying too much of the responsibility sometimes for what someone else is thinking about us. It's their responsibility to think what they think. We can't always control that. All we can keep doing is doing the work, doing the right thing. And I really believe that will then translate. And some people will get it and some people won't. But I think sometimes we're scared of saying no because we think, people will perceive us to be lazy, people will perceive us to be unhelpful, and they probably wouldn't think it of anyone else. So I think we need to depersonalise that a little bit.
Powerful stuff, guys. So take that away, and if you've used this, then message me and Aarti and let us know how that's worked for you in situations, because we'd love to share some of the learnings.
Yeah, that would be great.
And I love the win-win-win thing. I think
we can call it #win-win-win.
Yes. #win-win-win. If you've got an example, tweet us, Instagram, whatever. Let's do it. Advice would you give newbies coming into the industry?
So it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think with entering an industry or career progression, people think very practically. So how do I land this role? How do I gauge with these people? How do I negotiate a pay increase? How do I get myself noticed? So I'm going to do something slightly different, obviously, because I want to bring some positive psychology into this. And I would say that actually, when you're thinking about why you want to be in this industry, why you want to do the role that you want to do, why you want to apply for the job that you want to apply for, I think it's really actually great to check in with what's driving you at the human level. So what are your values and drivers? Because if, for example, you're driven by altruism and the desire to help people, or driven by the desire to learn and acquire new knowledge, then actually going into a role that is going to promise you great money but doesn't give you learning and growth every day is going to feel incredibly frustrating. And vice versa, and I think that when we look at what makes people happy and what makes them fulfilled, checking in with those values is really important. I think the second thing is actually then to think about what strengths you have. So I think a lot of people talk about, well, I've got these technical strengths, I'm a great project manager, I'm a great report writer, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to enjoy that job. That just means you're going to spend time doing things that you're good at. What we really need to find out is, what are our human strengths? Now, I know I've asked you to do this survey before, and hopefully we can flash up a link.
We will.
But there is a free evidence-based strengths finder test called VIA, Values in Action. You take it, and essentially it helps you to see what your human strengths are. So what are the things that make you you? And it might be leadership, it might be teamwork, it might be appreciating beauty and excellence in others. When we combine those strengths, and then you can get a report on those, with our technical strengths, we're in a much better position to package that up, to actually not only be good at what we do, but to really love it. So I suppose my advice to newbies is really get deep, get under the skin of what you want to do and why you want to do it. Because I also think that that builds the resilience when you're in that industry. Okay. Because once you know why you're doing something and what you bring to the table, those are going to be the aspects of yourself that show up when times get tough.
Coaching, in sort of your words, what does that mean? Because there's a lot of confusion out there with all of us in understanding what that is. So what would you say that is?
I think it's a really great question, because I think even when I first started coaching, and it was something I had done informally in my career, but obviously I do now formally through Before 9, I think I probably did coaching in the sense that I was coaching people, but I was also mentoring them. Right. So I was giving my advice, I was giving my experience, I was sharing my thought. The clearest way of thinking about coaching is that the coach is there to help someone else unlock the answers to their performance or their well-being or their resilience. And I think for me it's based on the idea that the brain that has the question has the answer. So my job as a coach, or any coach's job really, is to facilitate a discussion that enables you to self-reflect, dig deep, learn about yourself, and create actions and next steps and plans that come from within you. And I think that that's often the misunderstanding, because there are a lot of coaches that will say, I'm a career coach or I'm a resilience coach. And actually part of it will be mentoring, or even worse, part of it can step into the boundaries of therapy, which is actually far more related to helping someone overcome a trauma that they have experienced.
Right, okay.
But I think what's great about coaching now is that you can see a lot of organisations got in-house coach capabilities, as well as using externals like myself. And I think what I'm finding really valuable about it is that companies are investing in their managers and their senior managers to equip them with more coaching styles of management.
Okay, yeah.
So moving from command and control, team, this is how you do it, to team, let's create the space in which you explore how you're going to go and do something and learn. And then also the work that I do with executives is showing me that there are a lot of leaders out there who are open, very open to self-reflecting and learning.
Okay.
But I think if anyone is considering embarking on receiving coaching, I think it's really important that you ask the right questions of a potential coach to understand how they approach this difference between coaching and mentoring.
So if I was looking for a coach and I'm kind of confused between a coach and a mentor and what I need, what kind of questions should I be asking? So if I came to you and said, right, can you coach me? But actually I don't even know what that means. What should I ask you?
So I think, for example, if you felt that you wanted to learn from someone's experience, if you wanted to increase your expertise in a subject, then that's perfect for mentoring. Like, I want to learn how you progress so that I can progress, or I want to learn how to be better at doing risk assessments and I want a mentor.
Yeah, okay.
The coaching is far more around, I want to move forward and have a vision for what I want to achieve in relation to X, Y, Z, but I don't know how to start.
Okay, yeah.
Or I want to be better at managing my emotions, I don't know how to do that.
And then with the coaching, you explore, because the answers are within me or the audience, it would be me figuring out the answers rather than you telling me.
Yes, but and the coach is still working very hard in that relationship.
Yeah, of course.
Because what I do, and what all coaches, good coaches do, is that they are constantly reiterating back to you and summarising what you have said. Because sometimes I think the most powerful learning that comes from coaching is when someone hears themselves say what they're saying, and then they go, I had no idea I felt like that. I had no idea that was what I wanted to do with my life, or I had no idea that was the thing that was stopping me. Then as a coach, you can move on to kind of exploring that. Okay. So all the answers are coming from you.
Yeah.
But, I think it's really important for people to understand the distinction. That doesn't mean that you couldn't choose a coach that might mentor you for 5% of the time.
Yeah.
But it's always got to be very clear, and I'm very clear when I'm working with people, that when I'm wearing the coaching hat, that's who I am. When I'm wearing the mentoring hat, that's who I am.
Okay, great. Do you have to, and I know some of you guys will be thinking this, so I'm just going to ask it.
Yeah.
Do you have to be in an executive position to get coaching? Because there's that whole stigma around, oh, only executives, I have an executive coach, or I'm too young, or I'm not in a senior position, I shouldn't get a coach, I should be mentored. What are your thoughts on that?
I think you can have a coach at any stage of your life or your career.
Well, there you go, guys. One of my favourite things, we love them here over at the Resilience Pod, and I've asked Aarti to bring her current favourite book, and she's going to share that with us.
I am. I'm really excited to share this with you. So this book is called Flow, and it's by a guy called Mihai Csikszentmihalyi.
Okay.
And maybe you can put the spelling of that on there.
I will, yeah.
And this book is all about the experience of flow in our lives and in our work.
Wow.
And so flow is essentially that feeling that you get when you are in the zone. So, we all have those moments where we are doing something. For me, it's like public speaking.
Mm-hmm.
For someone else, it'll be writing a report. For some people, it will be reading.
Yeah.
Where time stands still, you forget yourself, the roof could cave in and you wouldn't notice. You just feel like you're on fire.
Yeah.
And it's actually, you feel like it's the best you could feel about what you're doing in your life.
Yeah.
And it's absorbing. And this book is about how to increase our ability to experience in the zone and flow moments through every aspect of our life. So in our relationships, in our interactions with people at work, through the work that we do. And I love this book because really it takes you through the whole journey in the science of what we think of as happiness, which in some respects is seen as pleasure, i.e. my needs have been met.
Yes.
That was very pleasurable, my needs were met. Versus enjoyment, which is my needs were met, but I also went above and beyond what I'm programmed to do or what I expected to achieve. That's where real enjoyment comes. So the book is all about how do we achieve enjoyment, growth and success in our lives by using our attention and our focus to be absorbed and in the zone.
It's very, like the whole theme of today has been very looking within, so that's a perfect book. So just remind our audience what the book is called again.
The book is called Flow.
Flow.
And we will write the name of the author.
Yes,
Mihai Csikszentmihalyi.
little snapshot coming up. So get the book, and guys, if you've read the book, then let me know and let Aarti know what you found of it and your reviews. And if you decide to go and buy it after this, then also let me know because it sounds really interesting, and I'll have to get a copy of that too. So
I mean, just to say, I've actually written a review of this book that's going to be published in a positive psychology textbook next year. So you could wait for that. But I would much rather you read the book.
We'll look at both because it's always good to read reviews and make up your own mind on things. So we encourage that. Where can our Resilience Pod viewers find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. So please feel free to connect. I love connecting with people and following their work. There's also a Before 9 page on LinkedIn, which it would be great. You can follow, you can see the kind of work we get up to. And then on Instagram, you can follow us at Before 9 Official. And that's, I guess, where you get the fun behind the scenes view on what we're putting out on LinkedIn very professionally.
Yeah, great. So all the links below.
Great.
Great. So guys, connect with her. There's no excuse not to because she's available on pretty much every sort of social media outlet available. So you've got an open invitation. So
yes.
No excuse. Right, we are coming to the end now, and it's gone so fast and so many things we've learned. Aarti's going to go through the mood book again and tell us how she's feeling after the interview. So she's just flicking through it. I mean, there's like so many moods in this book. Some of them are a bit strange, actually.
Some of them are a bit strange.
But hopefully she's not like misunderstood or angry or anything like that.
No, I'd actually have to say, I feel quite rocking. And just to bring a little bit of positive psychology into that, when we talk about ourselves at our best or the things that matter to us, science proves that actually we increase in positive emotion. If you feel uncomfortable talking about yourself at your best and things that you love and things that you think that you do well, practice with people that you trust because it is a real mood increaser. And here is the evidence for today's example of that.
Yeah, definitely mirroring that. There's so much positivity and really good practical tips from the famous Dr Aarti Anhal. So, you know, not just to slip in the initials there, but guys, thank you so much for coming on the pod today and just sharing your amazing insights with everyone and inspiring us all to be better.
I am so grateful for the opportunity, and I just hope that people take something away that works for them. So thank you guys for watching.
Yes.
And thank you for being phenomenal at facilitating.
Oh, no, you're welcome. So guys, see you next time on the pod, and stay tuned to follow Aarti ASAP. Bye guys. Bye.